Hello everyone, this is ponderonweather. In this update, we're going to be talking about some serious flash flooding, a tropical disturbance, and an upcoming cool down for the Northeast. So if you do like weather-related content, please subscribe to my channel as I will upload daily updates to keep you ahead of the storm. So let's get right to it. This is your overall hazard map for this morning for July the 25th. What we're looking at here is we've got those excessive heat warnings out here into parts of Montana where it's just going to be dangerously hot later on this afternoon. But we also have those flash flood watches still impacting the desert Southwest, where they've had some serious flooding, and they're going to be impacted again today. But what has changed is for parts of the deep South, where that ridge is going to be sneaking in that area of the country. And the dew points have been high. It's been really wet in this environment. And so now they have those heat advisories of 105 plus and parts of Oklahoma, getting into North Texas, Arkansas, northern Louisiana, as well as Mississippi here, and parts of Tennessee, as they're going to be getting those dangerous heat advisories later on today. So let's take a look at the big picture, which is the teleconnections. We usually look at this in the wintertime, but we've got some cooler air to talk about because the jet stream's going to buckle. Let's take a look at the Arctic Oscillation. You can actually see it actually goes negative by the time we get into the end of the month, and it stays predominantly negative for the first week of August. And then also the EPO, which is your Eastern Pacific Oscillation, also goes negative. So that's an indication where there's going to be some cooler air going to be filtering in down from Canada that's going to be impacting the northeastern part in New England area of the country. So let me show you this in the 500 millibar, how all this is going to play out. This is the latest update for July the 25th. You can definitely see we have that trough, but that's that tropical disturbance out here off the southeast coast. We've got the active monsoon as the ridge is going to be building. We got some colder air building up in Canada, and that's going to be filtering down, dropping down to the southeast as we go through midweek. So as we transition to Wednesday, there's that first punch. So it's going to be two pushes of cooler air. We're going to have the ridge is going to be building more or less for much of the United States, while the Northeast is going to be taking advantage of some cooler conditions with that negative EPO filtering in. And that's going to drop some cooler air into New England by the time we get into Wednesday timeframe. But as we go into Friday, yeah, that continues dropping into the Northeast as we have another building back behind it. So that's a reinforcing shot of cooler air. While much of the country continues to remain hot, they're going to experience some cooler conditions and some very nice weather, and then in that neck of the woods. But man, by the time we get into that August 3rd time frame, there's that second push, and that could be even cooler than the first one, as we have some very cooler air filtering into that part of the country, as the ridge will be building underneath and really dominating over much of the U.S. as we have Tropical Storm Hilda going to be building into the Eastern Pacific, which is probably going to be reinforcing the monsoon for the desert Southwest. So let me take you back and where we are now. So this is the latest satellite picture for that July 25th time frame. We have that boundary. So this is the boundary that we've been talking about that brought all the severe weather that has shifted into much of the central U.S., getting into parts of the Ohio Valley, getting into the Northeast today with some of that activity. There is our tropical disturbance. It's not this back behind here. It's this little subtle feature right here. The National Hurricane Center went out yesterday. They found a closed low, but they had no convection around that closed low. So today we're looking at it's small. There's that closed low, and it starts to fire a little bit of convection off that low level center. So they're going to be going out today to find out if there's any indications we can bump this up to a tropical depression. But there's the monsoon going to be continue to remain active for the desert Southwest. So if we zoom into that feature off the southeast coast, I mean, if you were with me last week, the guys have been following me for a long time, we talked about that first initial cold front going through the plains And we talked about the tail ends of the fronts sinking. All that front got all the way down into the Gulf of Mexico. And we said, hey, let's check out the 25th time frame of something, maybe tropical storm entity trying to form off that south tail of the front. Well, it didn't form off the northwest coast here, but it did form off the southeast coast, off the basically the tail of the front. And today is the 25th. And we find ourselves having a 50-50 shot of this particular system. It already has a closed low. All it has to have is convection forming around that center. And the hurricane hunters will be going out today, checking out that storm and see if they can actually, upgrade this to a tropical depression. But it's slowly shifting off into the west, and it'll be impacting Florida as it's going to be making landfall probably sometime on the day on Monday, because it's about 160 miles off the coast right now. So as we take a look at the overall rainfall for today over the next 17, 18 hours, we can definitely see that tropical disturbance off the southeast coast going to be impacting with some heavier rain still in parts of Florida. There's our boundary up to the north. Going to bring some heavier showers into the Ohio Valley and especially into the Northeast. That as that continues pushing off into, it will eventually be off in the open waters. And then the active monsoon will continue to be impacting parts of Arizona, getting into New Mexico, yes, Colorado, getting into Utah. The difference today is a lot of that precipitation, at least some of it, is going to be filtering into southern California here. So that is going to be a welcome change. And even some of that moisture may even sneak into the coastline of Los Angeles. So that's, hey, at least there's an opportunity there because these areas desperately need the rain. And I just feel like you're going to get more rain as we go through the day on Monday. This will shift just a little bit further your way. So if we take a look at the excessive rainfall for today, back-to-back days of moderate risk, and today we have a slight risk. That's a lot of rain in a short amount of time for areas that just don't see much rain at all over the yearly time span. Some of these areas are going to be picking up, their yearly rainfall totals just over a week time span. So this is a lot of rain in a short amount of time, and that's why we have that serious flash flooding going to be impacting the same areas today, which they've been seeing the last several days. So there's more rain to come later on this afternoon, even when we get into the overnight hours. And then along that boundary, we could find ourselves with some heavier pocket, isolated rain with the atmosphere capable of producing 1 or 2 inch rainfall rates at times. So this won't be impacting all these areas, but where that isolated storms could be, they could be dumping a lot of rain in a short amount of time. And there's our tropical disturbance back here in Florida, mainly going to be impacting the heavier rains and the central and southern tip of Florida for later on today. There's our severe threat. So as this continues to shift off to the southeast, it brings the gustier winds, the heavier storms, continuing to shift into, southern parts of the Ohio Valley, getting into West Virginia, parts of Virginia, getting off the northeast coast, mainly a wind threat as this would continue shifting off to the southeast as we go into the overnight hours. As we go into that Monday time frame, there's that boundary. Where it is now, it starts to back up as a warm front, and that's the indication where they have those reds and blues here starting to separate themselves. But to the south side of it, that's where you're going to find ourselves with those kind of like scattered, isolated thunderstorms throughout the day. And yes, you guys in Los Angeles could get into the action with some of that rain starting to get close enough from the monsoon. So that's going to be a welcome sight for your area. So as we go into that Tuesday time frame, whatever's left of that tropical disturbance will be more or less hugging the coast as the ridge will start building into the central U.S., dominating in this neck of the woods. A lot of sinking air, a lot of hot air too. So some of these areas, especially like in the Dakotas, Bismarck, you're talking maybe 106 by the time we get into that Tuesday time frame. And all these areas will be under the gun for triple-digit heat, extending all the way down into Texas, where they've been having a lot cooler July. That's changing in a big way, with that ridge going to be dominating for much of next week, we try to sneak in that little whatever's left of that system to get close enough. It might cool down on Wednesday, but more or less, all these areas will be under the gun for, you know, isolated scattered showers as we go into that Tuesday time frame, as the monsoon will continue to remain active, but not as much. But the change is, as the ridge will shift into the interior regions, you start to find yourself starting to get impacted with some of that rain. You're going to be filtering further north because it's not going to be blocked from the ridge again. So now parts of Oregon, parts of Idaho is going to be getting some of that rain as we go through the day on Tuesday. There's your setup for Wednesday, as the ridge will continue to shift. First, you have that first initial, you know, whatever's left of that little disturbance is going to be bringing some rain showers mainly along the coast here. There's the active monsoon. As the ridge will shift into the interior regions, it allows some of that rain to start pushing further northward than what it has been, as we have that second surge of cooler air from the northeast. That's going to be bringing some rain showers along with it into Wisconsin, getting into Michigan. That is on that Wednesday, July the 28th time frame. And look at the temperatures. There's that first initial surge of cooler conditions. We're talking low 80s, upper 70s in this part of the country for upstate New York, all on the coast here. And especially as we get into Maine, man, it's going to be feeling really nice for you guys. You know, low 70s, mid 70s. So that's going to be beautiful up there, while much of the country is going to be dominated under that ridge of high pressure with at or near triple digit heat and probably 105 plus in some of these areas up into the Dakotas on the day on Wednesday. You know, as we go into that Thursday time frame, the monsoon will continue to remain active. The ridge will be more or less shifted into the interior regions again. You know, with that sinking air for the central part of the U.S. on the outskirts, that's where they find themselves with opportunities of rain showers, not just in the desert Southwest, but yes, filtering in to parts of Wyoming now, away from that ridge, while you have that boundary with that cooler air, with the cooler, you know, with the cool front. It's going to bring some rain showers along with it. So yes, more rain for these areas into the Ohio Valley, getting into the Northeast as we go into that Thursday time frame. And then there's the temperatures for Thursday with that first initial push of the cooler conditions, while much of the country is experiencing going to be under that ridge of high pressure. And then where you have the clouds, where you're going to be taking advantage of those cooler, you know, that all the rain and into the desert Southwest, you're going to continue to remain below average for those areas, and down to the southern coastal regions, you're going to be more or less average temperatures, while that first push into the Northeast with those cooler conditions will start to bring some of that cooler air back into the picture as we go into the end of the month on that Saturday time frame, July the 21st. Look at this. I mean, we got a pretty good surge of cooler air into the Ohio Valley for much of Pennsylvania, into New York, all up the I-95 corridor. So yes, I mean, this is summertime, so this is the hottest time of the year. So yeah, we're talking 5 to 10 degrees below average. But again, that's going to be feeling real nice for summer standards. But as we go into that, you know, August 2nd time frame, Monday, as we go into August, there's that second push that it has even a more reinforcing shot, even probably a stronger push of cooler conditions. First, it'll be impacting parts of Minnesota, parts of Wisconsin, getting into Michigan, and then eventually that will filter into the Ohio Valley, you know, getting into the Northeast as well. And yeah, by the time we get into that Tuesday, August 3rd time frame, we find ourselves with some very nice weather to contend with in that part of the country, with those 10 to upwards to almost 15 degree below average temperatures where you normally would be for this time of year, as the ridge will continue to dominate over the central U.S. as we try to bring some cooler conditions back into the Pacific Northwest. But if we take a look at the latest outlook from the Climate Prediction Center, it highlights kind of that 1-2 punch after we get into the end of the month. From that July 30th to that August 3rd time frame, we've got those well below average temperatures for upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, getting into Maine with that first initial surge, and then we have a reinforcing shot that comes in to the first week of August, while the desert Southwest would continue, just based on averages. I mean, some of these averages are 105 plus, by this time of year. So we find ourselves at least, a little bit of below average, just average temperatures in that part of the country, where the ridge will be dominating for much of the U.S. There's your rainfall for the next 7 to 10 days. You can definitely see where the ridge is going to be dominating. That's where you're going to be high and dry for much of Texas. There's that first initial tropical disturbance boundary, kind of sitting there for most of the week, with some heavier rains into Tennessee, into parts of Alabama, getting into Georgia again, much of Florida. And with these, 1-2 punch into parts of Wisconsin and Michigan, and all up into the mid-Atlantic states and the Northeast, they find themselves still in that unsettled weather pattern. Yeah, the monsoon will continue to remain alive and well, but the change is we start to bring some of the rain into Southern California, getting further inland into Nevada. Yes, even Oregon's going to be back into the action with some of that rainfall, even spreading into parts of Washington. So these areas have been really dry as of late, and especially as we get into Idaho. So that's some big change in this part of the country, where you've been predominantly dry for the a good chunk for the last couple of weeks. We're going to be starting to see some rain showers starting to enter back in the picture. So hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, and definitely leave your comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel to catch the latest update, where I protect you before and after the storm.